A cave diver who was trapped in a dangerous underwater cave for almost 60 hours revealed that he was so trapped in the cave that he considered knifing himself to death to end his terrifying ordeal. The experienced cave diver had to face his darkest moment after 2 days of sitting alone in the dark, as well as breathing an air pocket at the top of a submerged rock chamber. This is the story of Xisco Gracia. Xisco Gracia started exploring caves when he was a boy. The area around his boyhood village was dotted with caves he could easily explore on foot. Gracia and his friends would spend hours searching the labyrinths, sometimes missing meals because they were so busy studying the caves. As he grew older and became passionate about scuba diving, becoming a cave diver was the logical next step. In 1994, he started training in cave diving and eventually became a geology teacher and a trained speleologist, a scientist focused on the study of caves. Gracia is part of a team of 13 speleologists that regularly explore, research, and map the underwater caves of Mallorca in Spanish, a Mediterranean island off the coast of Spain. Mallorca is much more beautiful underground than above ground, Gracia told the BBC World Service in an interview. On Saturday, April 15, 2017, Gracia and his dive buddy Guillem Mascaro entered the water for a dive to Cova de sa Piqueta, a sprawling underwater cave system. While Gracia and Mascaro are both highly trained and experienced cave divers, Sa Piqueta is a complicated dive site, with numerous underground chambers about 1 kilometer from the cave entrance. Mascaro planned to map a chamber deep inside the cave on this dive. They separated briefly, as Mascaro went to map the chamber and Gracia collected rock samples. After completing their respective tasks, they bumped into each other at a junction between two chambers. The collision stirred up silt from the ground, making it very difficult to see. To make matters worse, they couldn't find the guideline they had laid to help them get back to the cave's entrance. They spent precious time searching for the guideline, but could not find it in the murky water. By the time they found the rope, it had snapped on the edge of a sharp rock. Both of the divers had violated the rule of thirds, 1/3 of your oxygen for the way in, another third for the way out, and another for emergencies, and were getting dangerously low on oxygen. Gracia and Mascaro were now in dire straits. Running out of air, barely able to see and unsure if they could find their way out, they traveled to a nearby chamber, which they knew had an air pocket where they could discuss their options. The two resolved that the best action plan was for one of them to stay behind in the air pocket while the other went to get help. They decided Gracia would stay and Guillem would go for help. He was skinnier than Gracia and needed less air for breathing. Gracia was also more experienced at breathing cave air, which has higher carbon dioxide levels. And then began the nightmare of Gracia's life. While Mascaro set off for the cave entrance, Gracia took off his scuba gear, hoisted himself onto a flat rock, and took stock of his surroundings. The air pocket was surprisingly large, about 80 meters or 262 feet long by 20 meters or about 65 feet wide, with a 12-meter, which is about 40-foot gap between the water and the ceiling. The chamber's large size boded well for Gracia's chances of survival. Theoretically, he could wait for a significant amount of time and still have air to breathe while he waited to be rescued, but his chances of survival depended entirely on something out of his control, his dive buddy making it out alive and getting help in time. The cavern was utterly dark. While searching for a possible exit, he found a source of fresh water that, while brackish, was drinkable. As time wore on, the battery on his primary torches had expired, so he had to use his backup sparingly. He only used it to find drinking water and to urinate. The rest of the time was spent in total darkness. At first, Gracia was hopeful that his partner would find his way out and return with an emergency crew. After 7 or 8 hours, hope turned to fear. Fear that his friend lost his way and died. Fear that no one knew where he was and that rescue would not come. Fear that he would never see his family again. Fear he would die a slow death, alone, in a cave, in the dark. The air in the cave was toxic, containing up to 5% carbon dioxide. Normal air contains approximately 0.04% carbon dioxide and low oxygen levels. Breathing in this cave air took a physical and mental toll. Gracia suffered a constant severe headache that rendered him unable to sleep. His mind kept on playing tricks on him, and he started hallucinating, seeing lights where there were none. He began hearing bubbles but saw no diver blowing them. Then the long hours turned into days, and there was still no sign of rescue. Gracia was under immense psychological stress. At one point, he even grabbed his dive knife, thinking he would rather die a quick death by his own hands than a slow one from starvation or suffocation. Hope was lost. Death was imminent. But then, a miracle. While Gracia suffered in the darkness, his dive buddy had successfully exited the cave without the help of a guide wire and raised the alarm. The local police hastily initiated a rescue operation, enlisting other experienced cave divers, some of them friends of Gracia, to save the trapped diver. Unfortunately, the first rescue attempt was called off due to poor visibility, prolonging Gracia's ordeal. The first sign Gracia had that his friend had made it out alive was the sound of a drill above him. When rescue efforts stalled, the rescue team unsuccessfully tried drilling a hole into the cave to provide Gracia with food and water. After waiting another day for the silt to settle, 2 rescue divers successfully made it through. When Gracia heard real bubbles, this time he shone his torch and saw the face of an old friend, Bernat Clamor, emerge from the water. The two embraced, and Gracia finally knew he would survive. Clamor informed Gracia that he would need to leave him in the cave for a little longer as he returned to notify the rescue team. He gave Gracia some glucose packets to help boost his energy levels. Clamor returned with new tanks of enriched air for Gracia to breathe. He slowly guided Gracia out of the cave and to freedom and safety. Emergency medical services treated him, and he spent a short time in hospital. Gracia returned to the surface on Monday, April 17th, a full 60 hours after he started his dive. Enrique Ballesteros, a member of the city's police underwater task force, told the Spanish newspaper El Mundo that the decision to send Mascaro alone to the surface is ultimately what saved Gracia's life. They could have tried to stretch out the remaining oxygen, but surely that would have been suicide and they would have both died, he said. The near-death experience has not shaken Gracia's love of diving, and he has vowed to continue mapping the caves of Majorca. Just 2 weeks ago, Gracia returned to the same cavern in which he trapped to do some mapping and to analyze the air. "I have spent 24 years exploring underground," he said. "It's in my blood." What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, dive deeply into the like and subscribe buttons. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments. See you again soon in another video, if you dare.